and have an auntie from Germany. I have another roommate from Hong Kong who speaks Hong Kong Chinese, and she'll be all interested in speaking Chinese, I'm sure, to Siera. And then another teammate is from Sri Lanka. He speaks Sinhalese, and so hopefully she'll get a little Sinhalese. Actually, he is her godfather and his wife, godmother. So I figured out when I was trying to decide, the adoption agency said, okay, if something happens to you, you have to say who you want to take the child. And I was thinking, well, she lives in Bangladesh. She's not going to want to come here and be with people who she doesn't really know that well, even if they're my relatives. And the other thing is, I'm not so young. And guess what? None of the people that I could ask to do it are so young. They've already got teenagers. You know, I could ask my cousins, and they're all, you know, they've got teenagers. They've raised their family. They're getting done. Their kids are going to go to college soon. And so I'm like, what do I do? But I have these friends in Bangladesh who she's going to know really well. They haven't started their family yet. They're planning to have their first child next year. And they're awesome people, so loving and so in love with God. And so in the middle of this huge crisis they had, they just got married, and he's from Sri Lanka, and her name is Amy, and his name's Osanda. And Amy was expecting to get Osanda a spousal visa. And they just basically said, no, he can't have a spousal visa. The only way he can come to the United States is if he becomes a citizen. Well, he didn't plan to become a citizen. He thought he could be Sri Lankan and she could be American, and they could just go back and forth. But no, our government's not going to allow that. So he's going to have to become a citizen, and that takes time. So anyway, they're awesome people, and that's Siera's godparents. And so he speaks Sinhalese, and so she'll get a chance to be exposed to the Sri Lankan language also. You guys might wonder, what will her life be like? Well, one thing is that, you know, you think of the third world, and you think of like really low conditions, and like she's living in a little hut in the middle of the woods somewhere. Well, it's not like that in Bangladesh. It's a very, very populated country. It's like taking the state of Wisconsin and putting half of the population of America into it. So there's people everywhere. And their gross national product is money coming in from outside. So their relatives leave and go overseas and get jobs, and they send money home. That's what they make the most money off of. Like, that's like, we export, let's say, what do we export? Corn. They export labor. And so they send all that money back in. And what happens is, my area is where most people actually go out from the people group I work with. And so they're sending all this money into the country and investing it into building buildings. And so they have these beautiful apartments over there. Every time I go to conferences where there's a whole lot of missionaries, you know, they're living in Japan, and they're living in Russia, and they're living in all different countries. And I always find that I have the best living conditions from Bangladesh. I have the most beautiful house. I see their houses, I'm like, wow, poor you. My house is like fully terrazza floors. I have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house with three verandas, one of them really big, and huge house. And it's on the 6th floor of a 8-story building. And it's made, the guy who built it is from London and was very mindful of earthquakes, and so it's made very well. Let's see, what else can I tell you about her life? Everybody in the community, we moved to this building about 3 years ago. Before that, I had lived in the same building for 16 years. 3 years ago, I decided to move. And we moved into this community, me and my roommate, and they opened up their hearts to us in such a big way. And this community is just full of people who were born and raised in it, and their mom and dad lived in the same area. So it's got these deep roots, and we've got to join that community. And that community absolutely loves me and is just waiting to meet Siera. And they're just, people are saying all the time, when are you going to bring the baby? Or we can't wait to see the baby. And so I've got just open arms of people. And over there, it really is a community that raises a child. We say that, but they do it. So, yeah, somebody said to me, oh, just take it easy and enjoy being here. And I was telling them, yeah, when I get to Bangladesh, it's going to be easier. Because there's going to be a billion aunties who are just waiting for me to say, here, take the child and go for a walk. And all the aunties are filled with love. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'd love to answer any questions.
Tell us about the schooling.
Okay, the schools there are terrible. Terrible. And if a white child even tried to go to the schools there, I think that they would be harassed so much, not because the children want to be mean, but children just don't know. Anything different, is hard for children. And the schools are not good anyway. So I don't plan to send Siera to any school. She's going to be homeschooled. And I've been doing homeschooling with Bengali kids for like 3 years. I picked different kids who have had trouble in school and had them come over to my house 1 hour a day, usually in the morning, and been teaching them just to see how does it go for me. And I just absolutely love it. But I don't think doing it for 3 or 4 hours is going to be a problem. And it's been really fun. And I think the kids there are, in a lot of ways, a lot harder to educate than Siera will be because they've been undernourished. The kids that I have chosen have been very poor children, and so it's really hard for them to get concepts because they didn't have the nutrition to build the brain that they could have built if they would have had the right nutrition when they were little infants. So I have a feeling it will be a little bit easier than sometimes, I've had with Bengali children, teaching them like math concepts and stuff like that. Anybody else have any question?
I got another one. Tell everybody how long you've been wanting a baby.
That's a good one.
And about your blue tree.
Okay.
And about how it came about.
Okay. So I started to go crazy to get someone in my life about when I was 40. I mean, I was crazy before that, but not insane crazy. When I was about 40, I came back and told all my friends and all my supporters, I don't want you to be shocked when I end up with a baby, because I'm desperate for a baby or a husband or somebody, because I'm a single, all alone. And so I just said, don't think that I jumped into anything. I just want you all to know this is the plan. And then I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And God didn't come through. And I felt so, I could say betrayed in a way, to be honest. I mean, God knows this already, so I can tell you guys. And I felt so, it's like, I know you love the Soletis. And I know that, you've called me to be there for them and even die for them. But what about me, God? Where do I fit in? Because I have this one great desire, and my life is just passing me by, serving you. But what about the desires you put in my heart? And it was crushing me. And the Bengalis, they have no idea of all this. So they're constantly, you're not a single woman over there? Just weird, okay? Why aren't you married? How are you going to live? Why don't you have a husband? And so I would just be like, after going, everywhere I go, I get this constantly. And my roommate knows how upset I get, so she tries to get them on a different channel because she knows it'll just upset me to talk about this all the time. And it's like, I can do it for 10 minutes and because, it's God's will. But they just go on, pound, 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 hour after hour. And you're just like, oh, stop it. You're making me sad. And so I was always asking for prayer for my team.
You good boy.
And every time I would bring it up and ask for prayer, it would make me so sad because it would remind me. It's like Pandora's box. That's what I used to call it. Just open up Pandora's box and it just leads to sadness. So I didn't like to open that box. I didn't want to share with people, pray for me about this, because it upset me too much. So with my team, I just finally told them, you know what, I can't bring this up anymore because it's just too upsetting. And so one of my teammates said, well, why don't you just call it the blue flower? You don't have to say what it is, and we all know what it is. So then after that, I could just say, pray for the blue flower, and that was safe. It wasn't so intimate, you know, and then they knew, you know, this is really my heart's thing that's weighing me down. So then slowly time went on, and I was at every point, especially over the last 6 months of me being in Bangladesh, there was a child within 3 inches of my grasp, a Bengali child. But just this one woman has been working to find a baby that nobody wants, and it just keeps being so close. One child was brought in by my neighbors, and she didn't have a mom that wanted her. An uncle was raising her, and the baby, she was 3 years old, the baby was real sweet, and the mom got upset, the new mom, the adopted mom got upset because the child called somebody else mom. Well, the child doesn't know. You know, she just got brought into a new situation. She's 3 years old. So she picked the wrong person to call mom, and the person who wanted to take her said, I don't want her anymore, and sent her back. And it just happened to be that I was gone that weekend because I know these people really well. And I could have just, at that point, had that baby. And then right before I came this time, there was this baby. They were going to the village to go get the baby. Her mom was blind and she didn't want her. That's what I heard. Then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? I'm leaving for a month and a half. And this lady said, who's helping me, she said, okay, I'll keep the baby with me, and then when you get back, there'll be a baby. And I said, okay, do it. And so she gets there, and the mom has taken off with the baby. Then I realized, wow, I'm pressing too hard for this because the mom probably never wanted to give up the baby, but people were pressuring her, and she had to run away to protect her baby. I'm like, okay, this is getting bad. I got to back off. So I told God, okay, God, I don't know what to do, but I'm 53, and it's starting to get ridiculous. I'm starting to feel foolish to say, you know, at Easter time, well, I want to do this when I have a child. I was like, Melissa, you're 53, you're kind of acting stupid, you know? And so I told God, okay, God, I'm giving up on this hope when I'm 55. I can't do this anymore. It's not fair. And so then my aunt, I got home, and my aunt told me about her close friend who thought I was having a baby, Siena, and Dorothy. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, that sounds really great, but, you know, it's about 1,000 to 1. Well, during that conversation, I heard in my ear, call her Sierra Mary. And I thought, well, okay, hide that in my heart, that's weird. And so I just put that in God's hand, but I really didn't count it. You know, it was such a long shot. I didn't really think that that was going to work out. And then I remember I met with Dorothy. She came over and picked up some stuff, and we were just talking for a while. And I thought, I can't let her get away without saying, you know, say something to Siena about this baby. I don't want to be like a coward and like not say anything, you know. I want to be out there and say, I really want this. And she, you know what she said to me as she got into her car? She said, it broke my heart with joy. She said, you know, it's not my decision, Melissa. It's not my baby. But if it was up to me, that baby would be in your arms. And I was just like, wow, what a thing for Grandma to say. You know, it touched my heart so deeply. And then Siena decided, I want to go with an adoption agency. So I hear this, and of course that means to me, she wants to pick a parent from the adoption agency. I didn't know anything. I'm like, okay, well, God, that was cool. I wasn't even upset that much. I'm like, that was cool, God. It's cool. And so I prayed for them, and I was just so happy for them especially that Siena had decided what she wanted to do. And so they had a meeting, and I prayed for that meeting and everything. And then the next day, Dorothy called me and said, we've named you to take the baby. And I'm like, I was really shocked because they don't even know this. Because I thought the adoption agency meant we've decided against you. And I don't think that Dorothy knew at that point. I think only Siena knew. I don't know how it all worked out. But then they told me that, and we went through this process of getting to know each other better. And the adoption agency went through the process of finding out if I was, you know, an okay place, an okay person, and if this ranch was an okay place, because you got to have a place to live, and I live in Bangladesh, and they can't evaluate Bangladesh, so they have to evaluate somewhere. So they evaluated the ranch, and that was really, really cool too, really funny. They were really upset about the swimming pool. And I kept saying, but the baby can't walk. She can't get to the swimming pool. Well, it's not fenced properly. Okay. And then I found out it's not a swimming pool. So I was able to tell them, no, that's not a swimming pool. That's a
drafting pond.
Drafting pond. They said, oh, good, you don't have a swimming pool. No, we don't. The difference between a swimming pool and a drafting pond is a drafting pond has a fire hydrant that you can take the water out with. So it's like, no, we did that so that the fire department would have water if there was a fire in this area.
So we wouldn't have to follow all the rules of the swimming pool if you wanted to.
Which also gets you out of the rule of the baby not being able to.
That's right. And so they were happy, and when they came to evaluate the place, they're like, let's not look over there. Anyway, that's the story.
Looks like a swimming pool.
But it's a drafting pond.
It says drafting pond outside it. There's a big sign to make sure people know it's a drafting
Not
pond.
a swimming
It
pool.
says
Not
no
a swimming
drafting,
pool.
No lifeguard on duty. Drafting pond.
That's right. And there's no water in it anyway. It actually is. So I said, oh, this was a cute little story. I said, well, you guys are all worried about the swimming pool, but we have 27 horses. Maybe not.
We have about that then.
Yeah, and I said, there's a lot of horses here. They go, oh, we don't care about that. I'm like, you idiots. The horses are a lot more dangerous than the swimming pool. But okay.
They're all concerned about a swimming pool. What about the lake?
Right.
They don't care. It's all boxes. And a baby.
People don't have lakes on their property.
Right.
That's right. And there's 3 lakes on this property. A swimming pool and a whole bunch of horses. I told the adoption, there's a whole lot of ways you can get hurt here. So, kids can have a really good time, but they kind of have to be supervised when they're little. Anyway, that's the story about how Sierra Mary came to me and my most precious gift. And I also, out of it, got a new family. And so, the long family. I appreciate all of you guys that came. And, for entrusting me with the most incredible person that I could ever know, in my daughter. So, and you can see she's incredible. She's not raising a fuss. She's in everybody's arms. That's the baby off button. Bottle in mouth, baby off button. That's what I call baby off button. Baby off button.
I got a baby that was going to have my maiden name, which I hated giving up for Hawk. Lene.
Yeah.
I love the French name Lene. France is something else.
So
I'm a
anybody
French
else have a
descendant.
question?
No, but I have a
Come on, you
statement.
guys.
They will just, they have to just think.
I have a statement.
Yeah.
And I just want to share that I feel like I gained a family now, anyway, and so it's pretty wonderful. And I adopted both of my girls, and McKenna is right up there, and that is her biological cousin.
Right.
And so, the Lums have done a lot, and Jeannie has brought both babies to both of us. And so I think that you've been, when you say sometimes about being a prophet, sometimes I think, you've brought a lot of good.
It's more than blessed me.
I guess so.
And I didn't say Kiernan also, so I got another relative named Kiernan. That's true.
This one's not going to let you forget it, because
No,
she
won't.
That's my aunt, and this is my cousin.
Well, the funny thing was, she came over for a writing lesson, like, before, we had already decided and everything was set that the baby wasn't born. And so, McKenna's running around, doing this and doing that, and she doesn't even hardly see me, because who am I but this old lady who's hanging out, and I'm like, McKenna, you're running around after these horses, and you have no idea your aunt is walking behind you. You're gonna find out and be happy, like, within a week.
That's cute. Well, but I also want to share with people who don't quite understand adoption. I know you don't like the spotlight, Sienna, but I'm going to stick you on it, so bear with me for a second. Okay?
I didn't do it, Sienna. I did not do it.
No, you didn't.
Everybody has to know our blessed Sienna.
Now,
She is blessed. I got to teach her from age 8.
I know.
And now I'm teaching her cousin, Mackie. From how young to?
Well, it depends on the day. Sometimes you inherit, yeah. She was
Genetic
really mad.
genes are all there.
They're all horseback riders.
So,
So what did you want to say, Tanya?
well, for a lot of people don't understand. In fact, Dorothy brought something up today. People, can I bring that up? Yeah. That people have said, how can you let your baby go, your grandbaby go? And I would have done everything to keep that baby in the family. Well, the weird thing about it all is Dorothy does get to stay in their lives, and so that's the best part. And so, but at the same time, I just want to thank you because I think you did the most unselfish, courageous thing to know that you wanted more for your baby than what you could provide in the moment. And so I thank Aspen, your sister, all the time, and regardless if it's in my prayers or not, or she hears it or not, it truly was a very unselfish act, honey. Okay? And so for those of you who think, oh my gosh, there she is, how did she do this? I think you're very strong, that you and Aspen both were very strong to be able to do that. And I think you're amazing that you can sit here at the baby shower and be Sienna. And I love you always, and I always will. How's that?
We got a big family here, folks, and it's growing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what the adoption agency really shared with me a lot, is the courage it takes. And you can imagine, if you're asking the question, how could you ever do that?
How
It
could
shows
you
you right there what a courageous person it would take to do it. Because if you were sitting in a place knowing what is best for my baby and what is best for me, and you choose what is best for your baby, you're the best mom ever. And you should never be anything but the best mom to your baby.
Well,
Both of them.
and I, like you, waited. And I do think that there is something very special about waiting, because I'm not saying that we appreciate the babies more than people who keep and deliver, but I'm telling you, there is something when you wait and wait and wait and wait, and that baby's finally placed in your arms. And so, it's pretty amazing. So, anyway.
Yeah,
I like the story.
At the hospital, it was really funny. I was invited by Sienna to be there with her the whole time. And so I was with her the whole time. Mm-hmm. And Dorothy was with her grandma was with her the first night. Well, Dorothy had to go to work the next day. And it's really cool, the hospital, they have a bed for the dad. We didn't have a dad there, but Dorothy had to go to work the next day, so I take the bed, I'll sit in the chair. I'm just thinking, I waited so long, and here's this baby. I just held the baby, and the nurses kept coming in to check on Sienna to make sure everything was good, and finally they said to me, you can put that baby down. And I'm like, why? Why? I have to sit here in this chair anyway. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not putting this baby down.
Tanya has a cute story about a book she wants to write.
Oh,
Tell the story.
well, that came about because of Katie. This is my oldest, and Katie came to me at 2.5. She came to me at 21 minutes. But no bonding differences between the two. However, when Katie was about 3, no one had explained to her. I was Kate. Can I share?
I don't even know what you're gonna say.
It's scary.
Share what?
Well,
Just go for it.
are you okay?
Just go for it.
She'll tell you.
She'll tell you
All right,
after
you
you
can
said it.
stop
and
if
it's
you want me
wrong,
to.
or-
Well, but see, my kids are so used to hearing about the adoption stories, and I think that it's critical that they do, because to hide that is sort of like a shameful thing, and I don't find any shame in it whatsoever. And so I'm always very honest and grateful to my own kids, to the Lums, to blah blah blah. However, I explained to her about, I was a 4th mom, and she was kind of like, why, what is going on? And so I explained to her, this is adoption, this is how you were, and where you were, this is where you are now. And she was having a very hard time grasping it. In fact, during that time, she was hysterical. She would get, on a timeout in her room, and she'd sit down and I told her about her birth mother, Emily. And anyway, so she'd sit on my staircase. And I'd be like, what are you doing? I'm just thinking about my Emily. Okay, you think about your Emily right upstairs. But anyway, so she started questioning more and more. And then finally one day, I read this book, and I still can't find it anywhere on the internet anymore, and I loaned it out, and that person never gave it back to me, but it's called The Little Seed. If anybody finds it, let me know.
What's it called?
The Little Seed. And it's about a little kid in heaven up with God picking their family, okay? And I have my own spiritual theories. I do think that we choose somehow beforehand, but when I'm dead, I'll write you, but I don't know. So anyway, I was explaining to Katie that, and she goes, I chose you? And I thought, yeah, you did. And I just ran with it. And ever since that day, she has never questioned. She's always been home after this. But I told her, yeah, you did pick me, and God said you can't have that baby. I mean, you can't have that family. And Katie goes, but I want that family. And then God said, but no, you can't. And Katie said, I want that family. And then God was saying, they can't have babies, pick another family. And then she gets on the floor, and I actually got on the floor. I said, you went like this, I want that family. And then all of a sudden God said, okay, you can have them, but this is how you have to get them. And so, and then I have a little funny song. But, for Katie, it was Emily cooked me and Mommy took me. And for Mackie, it's Auntie Appy cooked me and Mommy took me. And so, anyway, so that's my story, and I'm going to write a children's book about it because it changed my child's world when she realized that she did somehow choose me. And I have had 2 kids that I was going to adopt, and I had to turn them back into the system, and it was awful. And I know what it's like to not feel bonded with your child, and during that time. And I'm telling you, my kids are home, and I think that Siera is home too. So.
Well, this woman, when I first came back, I told you guys, I told everybody, and I told her, and because I knew her past. And at that point, I don't think you had Mackie yet.
Oh boy, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I had dark hair.
Yeah, you had a little tiny dog you took with you everywhere.
Bella. Yes.
Yeah, Bella. And so, and she said, she gave me so much advice. Number one piece of advice, it doesn't help me now because God's plan wasn't what I thought it was, but it was really insightful, and I want to pass it on to you guys just in case you ever run across somebody who wants to adopt and doesn't know what age to adopt. She said to me, what is your motivation? If it's to save a baby, take an older one, and they'll never probably call you mommy, and they'll be really hard to raise, but you'll save someone. If you want a baby to call you mommy, take a little one, and they'll call you mommy, but you don't get to rescue one. And I just thought, wow, I could never choose between the two, but I thought, wow, that is really clear, and insightful. Anyway.
This is my favorite subject. So,
Anybody have any other question about Bangladesh? Okay. If somebody wants to sing at karaoke. Did it ever load?
Still loading.
Still loading. Okay, you guys have
Slow
to have a
internet.
question.
I didn't know you did karaoke.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't do karaoke.
You did karaoke. I saw you. You did great.
Oh, we're gonna sing the adoption
Just then.
song.
That was
Yeah.
a song she
That
made
song
up
you
many,
did.
many years ago.
I couldn't even
with
remember
her
the words. She knows the words. She got nervous and forgot them because she sang the whole song to me. I'm like, wow.
Did you video it? Because I didn't hear it, so do I get to do it?
Can you sing it one more time or no?
There you go, you gotta sing it one more time since you didn't video it.
The problem is I don't know the words, and she seems to be forgetting the words.